Hello and welcome to the Weekend Wrap-Up. I'm Rebecca Brown. We begin with this week's most viewed story. Tragic news of a teenage girl attacked and killed by a pack of dogs in Saline County. Catherine Rowley breaks down what happened and how neighbors are reacting.
It could have totally been avoided. And this young girl's family wouldn't be suffering right now.
I mean, she's gone.
Those living around White Oak say things were quiet in the Alexander neighborhood. That is until 30-some dogs moved in and started roaming the area and at times acting aggressively.
This is a neighborhood. This is a neighborhood. We may be in the county, but I mean, we're just normal people. It's a neighborhood. We're trying to live peaceful. We can't even go to the mailbox without these dogs coming after us.
Over the past few months, Ralph Murphy says he has called and complained to the sheriff's office about the animals. But after coming out to the property, he says officers told him there was nothing they could do.
Well, I think the county's failed us. The government at its best. It's failed us. Multiple people have called. They chose to do nothing. And now they have the nerve to stand around and look surprised.
Heidi Clay knew the young girl who was killed. Her father also lived close to the property, and she saw the dogs firsthand.
These dogs were very vicious at the fence to the point that no one wanted to let their children walk to and from the bus stop. Like, you had to get out here to get your 15-year-old off the bus because of these dogs. I mean, they do not look well cared for. They looked hungry.
According to the sheriff's office, the 15-year-old was at the property in a fenced area. Clay tells me that the girl and her mom were there trying to help the animals, even working with the property owner to take care of the dogs.
The mother of this child actually does have a dog rescue, and she cares for all animals. They have seen these animals starving and have reached out to these people to help them. This was a beautiful young girl that lost her life because these people do not properly take care of their dogs.
Now they are left wondering if this tragedy could have or should have been avoided.
I mean, somebody should have stepped in and done something. I know it's the county, but it is still a very unsafe situation. If somebody had done something, then maybe this little girl would be alive.
The sheriff's office told us all the dogs were removed from the property with the help of Benton Animal Control. They say they are still investigating the attack, and we are following this story closely and will update you on THV 11 as we learn more. Now to the Capitol, where tensions over proposed budget cuts to government programs continue to rise. We heard from a group of protesters here in Little Rock who are trying to get an audience with state and federal leaders. One by one, the Arkansas Community Organization fills Senator John Boozman's office, ready to share personal stories tied to what they call the triple threat: Medicaid, SNAP, and housing.
Guys, I'm going to end up on the street dead. My son is not going to have a mother.
Norma Huffman relies on all three, and with President Trump's Big Beautiful Bill making headlines and Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders restricting some SNAP rules and pushing for Medicaid work requirements, Huffman says her future feels uncertain.
I cannot have this kind of stress on me because it's going to completely diminish my health to where I end up in the hospital. And if Medicaid gets cut, I'm not going to be able to stay in the hospital. I'm going to end up dying at home.
And Huffman isn't alone. Hattie Temple echoed a similar story.
I got 3 medicines that cost over $300 a month. I got one that's $1,500. I have to use it twice a week. I can't pay that. And my rent, I'm barely paying my utilities now. My utilities is so high.
The group made sure their voices were heard, taking their message upstairs, urging their senators to vote against the proposed changes.
Yes, we're here to speak to the senator.
Neither senator was there, but Senator Boozman's office did send a statement saying in part, quote, "Work requirements for able-bodied adults are a fair and effective way to ensure SNAP and Medicaid benefits are directed to those who truly need them."
If this bill passes, millions of people are going to suffer.
Both Boozman and Cotton are in Washington as the Big Beautiful Bill undergoes changes to try and pass in the Senate. Senator Cotton's office has yet to send us a statement. In other news, a new ruling from the state's high court could mean serious consequences for lawyers using artificial intelligence tools like ChatGPT when handling legal cases. The state Supreme Court alluded to growing concerns about attorneys filing court documents with fake citations generated by AI. The proposed order warns that sharing confidential client information with AI systems could violate professional contact rules. It comes as judges nationwide are getting fed up with lawyers submitting briefs filled with made-up case citations. Some have even faced sanctions. The public has until August 1st to comment on these proposed restrictions. A new Arkansas law requiring schools to display the 10 Commandments is facing a legal challenge. The ACLU and several families now filing a lawsuit arguing the requirement violates the Constitution. Carter Thweet talks with both the group behind the lawsuit and the senator who helped craft the new law.
We're asking the court to order that the districts not display the 10 Commandments.
That's the response to a recently passed law requiring Arkansas schools to display the 10 Commandments. The ACLU of Arkansas, along with several families, now filing a lawsuit to reverse Act 573.
It requires schools, and I think government buildings, I think the focus was on schools, but schools and government buildings to put up a copy of the 10 Commandments if funds are provided.
State Senator Alan Clark was a co-sponsor of the bill, which Governor Sanders signed in April. The families argue the law is unconstitutional, but the senator feels differently, saying this does not violate freedom of religion because, in his view, the commandments are not inherently religious.
When I'm in church, we'll teach it from the biblical Christian view, but in school, it's from an educational legal view of what our culture is about and where it came from.
But that lawsuit argues Act 573 would subject children to the state's preferred religious belief, which they say goes against prior Supreme Court decisions like Stone versus Graham.
The Supreme Court held 40 years ago that permanent displays of the 10 Commandments like this are unconstitutional. So I think the law has been pretty clear that this is a unconstitutional establishment of religion.
John Williams is the legal director for the ACLU of Arkansas. After filing their preliminary injunction Thursday morning, he now hopes a decision will come before school starts back up.
The question is, should religion be imposed in that fashion in the public schools? And we'd argue not.
It's important that our young people, people in general, but especially our young people, know what our laws are based on.
For THV 11 News, I'm Carter Thweet.
Act 573 would also require schools and government buildings to display the national motto, "In God We Trust." But Williams from the ACLU says they are not focusing on that with this lawsuit. They are only aiming to challenge the 10 Commandments portion of the act. This week, we return to the historic Boyle Building in downtown Little Rock, now with a new look and a new purpose. I got a first look inside as the Attorney General and his staff get to set in and move in. If the $35 million renovation price tag doesn't grab your attention, the mission behind it might.
For me, the key is we're going from renting to owning.
Attorney General Tim Griffin opened the doors to the media for a first look inside the Bob R. Brooks Jr. Justice Building. Ahead of its official dedication set for Tuesday, the building sat vacant for more than 20 years. Now it spans 12 floors, each designed with a different purpose in mind.
More conference rooms, more meeting rooms, because it's where we have our senior staff meetings. It's where the council's office is, my office is. It's the original marble. If y'all want to look in here, the original ironwork.
And in true Griffin fashion, he's not one to shy away from big moves. The goal, build a space that's more accessible to the public and better equipped to help his staff handle a growing caseload.
More light and more openness and more, we needed to recognize that the physical structure that you are in is related to your performance.
Unlike 2 years ago when it meant hiking up 12 flights of stairs, this time an elevator ride takes you straight to the top, unveiling all the new features.
Cafe Madison, where people can just dine. Great view there.
Griffin says it's a cost-effective path for the state to eventually own the building, keeping more taxpayer dollars where they belong, and what he said back then still holds true today.
We wanted people talking to each other, collaborating, cooperating, conversing.
Meanwhile, many state employees have a pay boost coming their way after Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders announced merit-based raises. There will be a 1% increase for workers who meet expectations and a 3% increase for those who exceed them. The raise applies to executive branch employees with at least a year on the job and comes as a larger pay plan is set to take place July 1st. That one is aimed at bringing state worker salaries up overall and offers bigger bumps for high demand roles like troopers and social workers. We want to take a closer look at a recent study measuring child well-being in Arkansas is out. It ranks the state well below the national average yet again. Maya Ellison shares more from local advocates and where they're focused on this year.
A whole 365 days have passed. We've had a legislative session. We've had things that we're attempting to implement, and yet our children are still not faring well.
That's Director of Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families, Keisa Smith-Brantley. She and her team works closely with the Annie E. Casey Foundation, which releases the annual Kids Count Data Book, a nationwide study on child well-being.
How are policies being addressed in that respective state, and how well are kids doing, with the hope that states will take that data and look at ways that they can improve.
The study reviews 16 indicators in 4 key areas: economic well-being, education, health, family, and community.
And the purpose of having those metrics is to be able to compare apples to apples in terms of how states are doing.
This year's study showed Arkansas ranked 45th overall, the same as last year. Just take a look at this breakdown: 45th in economic well-being, 47th in health, 46th in family and community, and 36th in education.
That tracks.
It seems like you're not surprised.
No, I mean, we have always struggled with being kind of at the bottom of the list.
Brantley notes several key factors behind Arkansas's rank, like the state's 3rd grade reading level, healthcare disparities, and even child poverty levels among different demographics.
I am a little concerned about the changes that I'm seeing with the state of the educational department here.
Brantley says change starts with stronger policy and resource investment. The governor's office says they're prioritizing just that. In a statement provided to THV 11 News in response to the report, the Sanders administration emphasized the success of programs like Arkansas Learns, Healthy Moms, and the Healthy Babies Act.
It is important to look at policies that help Arkansans across the board, get Arkansans into, on a better footing. And that means healthy Arkansans that feel fully supported by their community, that are able to go to work every day.
In Little Rock, Maya Ellison, THV 11 News.
Thank you, Maya. After years of planning to bring a vet school to Arkansas, Lyon College finally turned to dirt on Thursday and broke ground. It's one of 2 vet schools in the works in the state. And as Brooke Buckner shows us, the rain didn't stop the celebration.
And this is only the beginning.
With no current veterinary school in Arkansas, there's a lot of room for growth. Having this one in Cabot is something Lyon College President Dr. Melissa Taverner says will benefit the entire state.
We're excited about being able to educate homegrown folks. When you are educated at home, you tend to stay, but you also understand the need of your community more than someone from the outside.
She also says this will help address the urgent need for veterinarians in Arkansas,
particularly in rural and underserved areas.
When it opens next year, each class will hold about 100 to 120 students.
That's a lot of people, but there's a great need.
A vet teaching hospital will also be housed in the same building as Cabot Animal Support Services.
It's going to be a community shelter, plus it's going to help with Lyon College's training of the veterinaries. It's going to be the first of its kind where they're going to get on-hand experience for a semester every day working on all kinds of animals.
Cabot Mayor Ken Kincaid says this will be a huge economic boost to his city.
I'm very proud. This is a $150 million project for our city. It's an opportunity of a lifetime, and we're lucky that we worked really hard and pushed and pushed and pushed Lyon to come here, and they accepted our proposal.
This veterinary school will be a place of innovation and compassion, a place where students learn from dedicated faculty, grow through hands-on experience, and emerge ready to make a difference.
A dream that's now become a reality.
This is the beginning of something truly significant. And thank you all for being here to share the beginning with us.
In Cabot, Brooke Buckner, THV 11 News.
Thank you, Brooke. Lyon College School of Veterinary and Medicine plans to see its inaugural class next year. Arkansas State University also plans to open its new vet school next fall. In Arkansas, music is more than entertainment, it's inheritance. A closer look at the pioneers, places, and performances that define Arkansas's Black musical legacy coming up. June is known as Black Music Month, and here in Arkansas, the roots of Black music run deeper than you might realize. From the blues of the Delta to gospel on Sunday mornings, our state has helped shape the sound of America. This week, I kicked off a special series. Well, this week, Journey Taylor kicked off a special series. I'm just so excited. Looking at the pioneers, places, and performances to define Arkansas's Black musical legacy, starting right here in Arkansas.
In Arkansas, the story of Black music is deeply woven into the story of the state itself. From historic streets in Little Rock to blues-rich highways that stretch throughout the Delta. While some of the stories are lesser known, their impact spans generations and genres.
Music has played an important part in the history of Black Arkansans, going all the way back to the days of enslavement, with work songs, which eventually form the basis of the blues and gospel, which then take us to R&B and rock and roll and hip hop.
From the haunting, soulful strands of the Delta blues to today's chart-topping hits, Arkansas has firmly etched its legacy into the heart of American music, and it's a story that continues today. For over a century, the natural state has been a starting point and sanctuary for musicians chasing their dreams.
The Chitlin Circuit was a series of venues throughout the East Coast, the South, where Black musicians could play and Black fans could come and watch.
And Brian Rogers with Mosaic Templars Cultural Center says Little Rock's historic West 9th Street is the cultural crossroads where those dreamers met.
This was where there were Black businesses, Black homes, Black churches, and one of the significant things that was here was the music venues. The Dreamland Ballroom.
The Dreamland Ballroom stood as an Arkansas stop on the Chitlin Circuit, a network of venues that gave Black entertainers a stage in the segregated South.
When you had artists like Billie Holiday and Nat King Cole and the Duke Ellington Orchestra, when they would tour and come through Little Rock, they would play 2 shows in the city. One at the Robinson for their white fans. Then after that show ended, they would all come down to West 9th Street and play one of the venues here.
And it wasn't just blues and soul. Arkansas gave rise to Black musicians and classical genres.
Florence Price, who was a classical composer who grew up in the Dunbar neighborhood, or William Grant Steele, who was another classical composer from Dunbar.
And then there's the genre creators.
Didn't it rain, children? There's Sister Rosetta Thorpe, who is widely considered to be the godmother of rock and roll.
The region, especially the southern stretch near Mississippi, became a magnet for talent. They're originators of the Delta Blues.
Our highway represents a geographic span where you have clubs and juke joints and little dives where all of the greats would go.
Jimmy Cunningham, the executive director of the Delta Rhythm and Bayous Alliance, calls it Cotton Country, a dynamic area that spurred the creation of venues welcoming musicians from all walks of life, like in the heart of Pine Bluff. This musical migration continued downriver along what is known as the Delta Rhythm and Bayous Highway, stretching from Pine Bluff to Greenville, Mississippi. It's a trail where gospel, jazz, blues, and even ragtime echoed through clubs and saloons.
This part of downtown, east of Main Street, was the area that clustered African-American businesses. So you would have had vaudeville and ragtime over there. You would have had jazz and swing and blues over here. This is a place where the spirit of that music lingers.
A century later, those sounds are celebrated and preserved, not just on stage, but over the airwaves.
For my life, Lord, I thank you.
You always, no matter if it's Power 92, KOKY, Praise, 3 different formats. One's gospel, one's adult, one's hip hop. But every Sunday morning, you're going to hear gospel. Something gospel every Sunday morning on all those stations, because the stations are built around lifestyle.
No matter the genre, music makes meeting people where they are just a bit easier. A legacy that continued through events like Arkansas's massive annual Juneteenth celebration brought up incoming artists to the natural state.
Juneteenth was it back in the day, I'll say. And to see it grow and develop from the 90s into what had happened in the 2000s was something that was very special for the city.
Music, culture, and history converge every year at the Juneteenth Festival in Little Rock, a tradition rooted in education, freedom, and sound. Music is more than entertainment, it's legacy.
Arkansas history and the history of Black Arkansans are intertwined. You cannot separate the two.
And I sing because I am so happy.
It tells the story of the people. Yeah. It tells the story of a broader social context. We contributed to music in some profound ways, and now we're finally going to be telling Arkansas and the world how cool we are.
This is just the start of our musical ride here in June, and Journey will have more stories highlighting Black Music Month still to come in the next few weeks.
Best donuts in town, hands down.
They almost sent from heaven.
It's for Dale's Donuts in Benton, but the business 40 years run is coming to an end. How the owners plan to pass on the pastries after the break. For nearly half a century, Dale's Donuts has been a staple and been known for sweet treats and loyal customers. But now the family behind the counter is ready to pass on the torch. Carter Threet shows us what's next for the iconic shop that's been serving generations.
Best donuts in town, hands down.
You'll hear a lot of that any given morning at Dale's Donuts in Benton.
The love, the compassion, the hospitality, the generosity.
I think it's the only donut worth buying in town.
When we tell people to come to Benton, we always tell them this is where they should stop.
I mean, they almost sent from heaven. They don't get no better than that.
Dale and Peggy Ashley could have never imagined reviews like those when they started Dale's over 40 years ago. Their son Joel now runs the business, and everything, including the store's success, has remained the same.
We have the best customers, and we just try to put out the best product we can and treat everybody the way we'd like to be treated.
But thanks to some recent news, you could soon be doing more than just eating this donut. You could be the one making it.
I'm 69. It's time for me to retire. I've been putting it off because every time I mention it and the customers hear it, they get upset. So I've been putting it off, but it's time.
That means the store is now up for sale, and anyone interested can call or text the number on screen. Ashley says he's offering their recipes and everything else he's learned over the years to whoever buys it.
I'm just hoping that they can keep it the way it is because I want to take care of the customers we have.
And not just to keep the donuts coming, but the memories too.
When I was a little girl, my grandpa used to bring me here before school when we had sleepovers, and he would always bring us here for breakfast, and we'd always go sit in the little rainbow chair. And my kid's here with me today, and he's sitting in the rainbow chairs and having his donuts.
In Benton, Carter Thweet, THV 11 News.
Looks so yummy, Carter. If you are interested in keeping Dale's up and running and need a contact, you can find that on our website on thv11.com. Well, that's it for the weekend wrap up. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.